Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I will be talking about John Woo's 1989 action film The Killer, and also about John Woo's 2024 action film The Killer. Now, in the original 1989 movie, we meet Ah Yong, a hitman with a strict, if not exactly orthodox, moral code. When a nightclub singer is accidentally blinded in what was supposed to be Ah Yong's last job, the killer with a conscience feels obligated to take another hit to earn the money needed to pay for the singer's eye surgery. Unfortunately, there are complications with that new hit as Ah Yong is spotted and pursued by maverick police detective Li Ying. The hitman ultimately escapes, but Li Ying gets a good look at him before he does. Now Ah Yong finds himself in the crosshairs not just of the police, but also those of his former employers. After all, he's now known to the cops, which makes him a threat to their security. Can Ah Yong outwit and outfight the forces pursuing him, protect the woman he's fallen for in the process? It seems unlikely, but perhaps an unexpected ally might tip the balance. In the 2024 film, meanwhile, we meet Z, a hitwoman with a strict, if not exactly orthodox, moral code. When a nightclub singer is accidentally blinded in one of Z's jobs, the killer with a conscience chooses to leave the young woman alive, even though that technically violates the orders she was given. Z's employers are implacable. She gets orders to finish the job properly and kill the singer too. Z makes an attempt to do so, but changes her mind when police detective Say comes into the young woman's hospital room to question her, and the singer claims not to remember anything. But now the wily detective Say is on to Z, and she's made an enemy of her former employer. Can the wily hitwoman keep herself and the singer alive? It seems unlikely, but perhaps an unexpected ally might tip the balance. So the original 1989 version of The Killer was not an immediate hit in its native Hong Kong, but it catapulted writer-director John Woo to international acclaim. The film became Woo's stepping stone to Hollywood and has been cited as a strong influence on the work of many directors, including Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, and Luc Besson. Plans to make an American version of the film began as early as 1992, with Walter Hill set to co-write and direct. That project never got beyond the script stage, however. A second attempt at a remake was announced in 2007, with the plan being for South Korean director John H. Lee to shoot the film in 3D. Thankfully, given my feelings about 3D, this too failed to make it into production, and I was spared the pain of The Killer 3D. It would finally fall to John Woo himself to bring the American remake to screens, though even this was a multi-year process disrupted by the COVID pandemic in 2020 and the Actors Guild strike of 2023. The Killer remake debuted on streaming service Peacock to middling reviews. Critics were impressed by the action scenes, but felt the film lacked personality. For myself, I think the 2024 version is probably more accessible for Western audiences, and not just because it's in English, but a lesser film overall than the original. Let's compare and contrast, shall we? And the first thing I want to say is that I appreciate that the 1989 and 2024 versions of The Killer manage the balancing act of being recognisably two versions of the same film, while also having very different plot details. Both start with a killer with a conscience accidentally injuring a young woman, the singer Jenny. Both feature the killer trying to resolve the situation and tangling with the police detective in the process. Both feature a breakdown in the killer's relationship with their employer, culminating in a big fight at an old, largely abandoned church. But the journeys that each film takes to get there are quite different indeed. The roles of various subsidiary characters are very different. The course of the conflict between the killer and their employer is different. There's a noticeable change in the structure and tempo of the fight scenes. Overall, the 2024 version of The Killer is one of the more interesting attempts at a remake, purely for how well it blends old and new elements to create a movie that is recognisably derived from the original, while still very much its own distinct thing. Now, one of the first changes made to the US version of the film all the way back in 1993 was to switch the hitman character to a hit woman. Nowadays, such a change would probably provoke a lot of internet outrage about the woke agenda, but the fact of the matter is that the motivations for the gender swap back in 93 were the exact opposite of woke. You see, one of the core arcs of the original film is the relationship between the hitman and the cop pursuing him. Ah Yong and Li Ying might be on opposite sides of the law, but they quickly develop a mutual respect for each other's skill and then a friendship born of their shared belief in a certain form of honour. Both will kill implacably when they believe they must, but both seek to protect innocence and harm only those that they believe deserve it. This warm relationship between two male characters passes without comment in Hong Kong, but the film's Western producers were concerned that Western audiences would interpret it as homoerotic, because unfortunately, in the Anglosphere, two men can't express any kind of mutual affection without it being seen as transgressive or strange. Now, personally, I think those concerns were unfounded. The vibe between Ah-Yong and Li Ying is much more bromance than romance, and so, in all honesty, is the relationship between Z and Detective Say. But it was something that they were concerned about 30 years ago, and that is why we have a hit woman in the remake. Now, another impact of the shift to a female lead is to remove the romantic connection between the killer and Jenny. Ah-Yong's motives for helping Jenny are obvious: guilt over harming an innocent bystander compounded by a growing attraction toward her. Z's are much less obvious. Jenny was technically a valid target under the terms of the job Z accepted, and because Z refuses to kill Jenny is now a core vector of the conflict, that lack of clarity, given that there isn't a romantic tension between them, is made more evident. Why is Z so committed to protecting this woman? It's a little bit of a weakness in the film. The bigger issue with the remake, though, is that it lacks the same highly distinctive style of the original. The 1989 version of The Killer is an operatic melodrama of high-octane gun-fu, an early entry in the heroic bloodshed subgenre. It is a movie where everyone's personalities are writ large and no action can be taken unless it is suitably extravagant as well. It's also a film where all the major figures have flaws as over-the-top as everything else about them. Ah-Yong might have a code of honour, but he's still a ruthless killer who is less than honest with Jenny. Li Ying might be an effective police detective, but he's also a dangerous loose cannon. The remake loses much of this Baroque extravagance to deliver a far more conventional Hollywood action movie structure and narrative. Good and evil are much more clearly defined, and the finale, while full of solid stunt work and action choreography, is nowhere near so memorable, at least in part because the script follows familiar action movie patterns. It's decent stuff, competently executed, but it's nowhere near on the scale of the Götterdämmerung excess of the original. Now, whether that is a good or a bad thing will depend on the individual viewer. Some people doubtless find the original film too over-the-top and melodramatic, and even though I personally prefer the original, I do think the remake is a more accessible film on the whole for English-speaking audiences. Next time, we're off to meet the Wizard and Elphaba and Glinda too, because it's time to take a look at Wicked for Good. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you've seen either version of The Killer, let me know what you thought of them.